Okay, my hope is that this will be a good mic, everything will be good, and we won't have to re-record this whole thing.
And I got my douchebag Cyclops goggles on.
What was that? You got your what Cyclops goggles on?
My awesome Cyclops goggles on.
That's what I thought. Bill, put the gun away.
Who's Bill? You're like... Which Bill do you have in your room here?
We're talking about X-2 today.
Okay,
X-Men
X-2.
United. Well, spoiler-free review, followed by a spoiler review. So we'll let you know when we get into spoilers. This movie is forever ago old, so take that into consideration. Hopefully our audio will be better this time, but this is going to be a learning process as we continue to make real-life videos. And also assuming I don't get my head blasted off by Cyclops here. But X-2, this is a fantastic movie. This is way better than the first one.
Yeah.
I mean, miles.
Well, yeah, this is one of the best ones in the franchise.
Yeah, absolutely. So. Which is weird because they hit their stride with 2 and then there's a big fall off for a few years after this.
Yeah, definitely.
But it's pretty crazy because in terms of non-spoilers, there's tons of self-discovery in this movie with different characters, which we'll get into more in the spoilers. But essentially, Iceman, Logan, Wolverine, obviously,
Charles.
Those two grow a lot. Charles, you kind of are forced to look a little bit at things that went on in his past in this movie. I'm trying to think of other characters that grew in this movie. Jean Grey certainly did, because she went from just pretty redhead to actually having
a character,
a big role. Yeah. It seemed in X-Men 1, and this is I've seen this as a big literary or film critique before, and I actually agree with it to some extent. If you only have someone there to be a love interest and that's it, a lot of times people don't really care about that character very much. It's just a goal for the main character.
Yeah.
That's what Jean Grey was in the first movie. She was just a goal for either Wolverine or Cyclops to kind of fight over, and there's nothing else really to her. In this movie, she actually kind of comes out in terms of a character and actually becomes somebody. I think a lot of characters become more than just a face on a screen.
Yeah, that was something that was really good about this movie, was actually... First one dealt a lot with Logan and Charles really well, but then the other characters were kind of just there.
Yeah.
I mean, Cyclops was cool in the first one, but again, he was just kind of there.
Yeah.
This one actually drew a lot of them out and actually fleshed them out into full-grown characters, like you said.
So it's more than just Wolverine, Magneto, and Professor X the movie?
Yeah,
exactly. Nate and I were joking about this. In a way, it's a home invasion movie. In a way. Now, what I mean by that is the whole crux of this movie, if you've seen the trailer, so I don't consider this a spoiler, is about what would happen if the X-Mansion was attacked.
Yeah.
And sort of the fallout of those events over time throughout the movie is basically the main struggle of this film. And there's a lot more to it than that, a lot that caused that issue to happen, but that's sort of where we're at in this movie.
It just kind of shows what happened. It's more of like the fight between humans and mutants.
Yeah.
Is kind of what this movie is really about.
Yeah. And also, we both thought that one issue, though, with this movie, before we get into its elements itself, was that there were a lot of sidelinings of characters happening. This is something that did happen a bit in X1, but I think it really hit its peak in this movie in terms of after this would be a repeated pattern no matter who was at the helm of the movies. Is some characters would show up and they would be pushed aside for plot reasons to get them out of there, which begs the question of why are they there in the first place. So I guess a good example of that is Cyclops.
Why is he the worst?
Why is he in this movie? And I'm not going to talk much about 3. We will talk about 3 when we get there, but that movie has that same problem on steroids. So it's weird that started here. And that's a big problem with this movie, I think, is that it does showcase off X-family characters for their abilities sometimes, but not to do anything with them. Kitty Pryde's another example in this movie.
Yeah.
So that's probably the biggest problem with this movie. But in terms of positives, I think we both think the CGI and effects are miles above the first one.
Yeah, definitely.
It seems like the first one, it almost felt like Fox was saying, yeah, well, we'll make an X-Men movie, I guess. Here's $30. Where they were like, we don't want to spend too much on this.
Put in a red blast for Cyclops.
Yeah.
There you go.
And you just see a man run by with a red piece of paper. No, it's not that bad in the first one, but there's a lot of effects that did not age well in the first one. There's very few in this movie that don't hold up. And the balance of action and story. I think that's something you brought up originally. There's both in this. It's not just dialoguing you to death, but it's also not Transformers.
Right, exactly. I like the reference to Transformers, by the way.
Thank you very much. Anything else to say about the non-spoilers before we get into spoiler section? Because some people like to dive out. They say, oh, what I've never seen this movie. What's some general thoughts on it? I'm going to go watch it, and then maybe I'll see what they think after.
So general thoughts I have for non-spoilers. Definitely watch the first one before you watch this one.
Yeah, it's not a jumping.
Yeah, if you have not seen these movies and you're like, oh, I'll watch X2, that's probably a bad idea.
Yeah.
Not a lot of stuff is going to make sense.
You can say that for any movie
exactly.
after X1. There's not a good jumping on point in this franchise, except maybe First Class.
Yeah, if you watch like First Class or maybe Origins for some of the stuff.
Let's see who you really are. Hugh Jackman.
I'm like Fox, like an executive from Fox. Like, well, if you watch Origins, it's a great movie, actually.
It's time to see who you really are. John Foxworthy. That's who I imagine the CEO of Fox is.
So, with X2, you definitely have to watch the first one to understand it. Overall, it's a fantastic movie. You want those back? It's a fantastic movie. It's actually one of my favorites. I think it really deals with a lot of the themes and stuff, and it just expands on them really well. You're throwing off my groove here for the movie.
No, you're completely right, though. I don't mean to undermine you there with my charming good looks and 5 chins, but I do think that that's a good point, though. It really takes everything the first movie does and does it better.
Yeah, exactly. It does it way better than it is what the first movie tried to be.
There is only one element of this movie that I think is worse, and that is Charles Xavier.
Yeah.
Which is something we'll get into because he also is semi-sidelined.
Yep.
So now, moving into spoilers, I will say, here's your warning. If you don't want spoilers, this is where we're going to start them right here and talking about the full events of the movie. And this section will hopefully actually be a little quicker because Nate has to leave soon. The events in this movie are interesting. It really starts with an assassination attempt on the president, which is by Nightcrawler.
My favorite X-Men.
Blue Jumpy Guy, as I refer to him as. He actually attempts to attack the president in the White House. We don't know why. Later on, you find out that Stryker actually caused this. Stryker is a military dude. I'm TLDRing the hell out of this script. But he is a military dude who is anti-mutant, really hardcore. He's the type of person that Magneto warned Xavier about, actually. Yeah. And the sad thing about this movie and 3 and some other ones is in some way, they're both right. I mean, Charles is right in his way, but Magneto's points are very validated in this movie. In terms of a home invasion, the military showing up at the X mansion, trying to, take out students and capture them. And they really put them in a position where they could have just euthanized them, basically.
Yeah.
Because they take a lot of them off to a camp.
Yeah, exactly.
So
and that's one of the things that this movie does well is you can actually see both sides of the villains, or villain and good guy. And, I mean, that's something they did in X-Men also, but this one did it. You can actually experience Magneto's points in this. Here's Stryker, who is a normal guy. He's not a mutant. And he basically fear-mongers the country into hating mutants. Now, it is revealed that he was the one that actually changed Nightcrawler's mind. Like, he messed with his mind to actually force him into attacking the president. He used
his son to do it. Because his son has similar powers to Xavier, actually. Which they really get into that as well, because this deals a lot with Xavier's own failures in a way.
Yeah.
And you could say that Jason, the son of Stryker, is a failure of Xavier in a way, but also not. Because Stryker wanted his son cured of being a mutant.
Yeah.
He thought being a mutant was a disease and a threat to humanity. So he didn't want his son to be that. But instead of trying to cure him from that, because you can't really do that, at least in Xavier's point of view, he tried to help him embrace his gifts, and Stryker sort of called... Basically, Jason went home.
Yeah.
Eventually. And Stryker's abuse of Jason, along with Jason's misuse of his power, led to the death of Jason's mother, which was Stryker's wife.
Right.
And also sort of tormented Stryker as well with these dreams and other things. And Stryker ends up pretty much lobotomizing his kid and turning him into a weapon to kill the mutants.
Yeah. And he even tells Charles that my son died.
Yep.
So it's kind of he made this idea in his head that even though his son is right there, it's no longer his son.
Right, it's a tool.
So therefore he can do whatever he wants with it.
So this dude...
It's pretty dark, actually. It's pretty intense.
There's a lot of body horror stuff in this movie, actually, because of that. We also see another attempt to create a Wolverine, which Wolverine's able to put down because he's Wolverine.
Yeah, exactly.
You know? There's a lot of interesting stuff in here. Speaking of Wolverine, his relationship with Stryker was very well done. I think you pointed that out the best because where he starts in terms of he's searching for answers. Even at the beginning of the movie, it starts pretty much with Alkali Lake in a lot of ways, and him trying to find answers there and then leaving. But by the end, it's not that he doesn't care at all, but he cares more about his new family and the X-Men.
Yeah, there's even the scene at the very end, and this is like heavy spoilers, where Magneto actually chains him up to the wall at Alkali Lake, and then when the dam breaks, it's like, he's just going to be washed away. But Wolverine comes up to him, and Stryker actually tells him, like, I have the answers you're looking for, basically save me. And Wolverine is actually carrying a child that he rescued from Alkali Lake, where Stryker was keeping him. And I thought it was cool symbolism because it showed that Logan went from this beginning of the movie where he really cared about his past. He was like, why can't I remember this thing? To the end of the movie, he's actually carrying the thing that he cares about now. And he walks away from Stryker.
Yeah.
Without ever him telling him what his past is all about. So it's like he was kind of just pushing that aside and being like, well, I don't really care anymore. My new life is now at the X Mansion. All these kids and all them, they need me now. I don't care.
Right.
And I thought it was a really cool character growth, actually, from Logan in the movie. So
this is also probably, I do want to mention, not to undermine your point of how deep the character of Logan is in this movie.
Very deep.
But also, this is one of the coolest X movies with Logan in it in terms of, you picked the wrong house, bub. He yeets all these
That's
guys
my favorite line.
who try to... So, yeah, he is left in charge of the X Mansion while everybody's away, and they try to invade it, and he just he slaughters all these military dudes.
And they're not just military dudes. These are like heavily trained anti-mutant military Navy SEAL assassin military dudes.
Yeah, this is like SEAL Team 6 level special forces.
Exactly.
And Logan kills a ton of them. And frankly, he could have killed more, you see. He probably could have killed all of them, but he's trying to get the kids out of there. The ones that he can protect.
Yeah.
And that's an interesting part of the movie, too. That's the first place you see this split. You have the killing machine Wolverine, here, and you have the becoming an X-Man Wolverine here.
Yeah.
And sort of how those two overlap. That's sort of the first place you see it, and it really culminates, like you said, at the end. I mean, I think that this movie did a brilliant job with all these characters, making them a lot deeper. I think Jean Grey, especially as well, was another one that was done very well, and I think it's a shame that we don't see more of that again, I will say, until the prequels, really, with that character depth.
Yeah.
But this movie also did something a lot of people hate, and I will mention that. It solidified a path going forward where Logan would be pretty much the focus of the franchise up until Hugh Jackman's departure.
Yeah.
Now, I love that because I love him, but there was also a lot of missed opportunities in the whole series because of a lack of being able to build up other characters at the same time. And I think that did start a little bit in this movie.
Yeah, you see a lot of characters throughout the franchise, like Cyclops, get thrown to the side, especially in this original trilogy. Like, he is practically worthless which is kind of weird because he was like the main character of the X-Men.
Yeah, he was the leader of the X-Men other than
like, the
Xavier.
comics and everything. So you see characters kind of just get thrown to the side. Wolverine, he even has 2 whole movies which are just about Wolverine.
Yeah, just in the main continuity, and then he has Logan on
and then
his
he has
own.
Logan too.
Yeah.
So, and even in Days of Future Past, that's pretty much about Logan.
Logan and Xavier and Magneto. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like this movie started that, kind of like you said.
Yeah.
So,
and that's no fault to this movie. This is a fantastic
it's a
movie.
great movie.
But it is worth mentioning, I think, since we're trying to take a look over time at the whole series.
Yeah.
So overall, do you have anything else you want to throw out there? I think we've gone for a little while. I don't know what else to add on my part other than I think this is X1, but better in almost every way. I think that a few things could have been done better. I think Xavier could have gotten a little more screen time as Xavier and not in the base.
Yeah.
And I think that, but overall, is it perfect? No, but I think this is one of the better superhero movies, actually, that's out there.
Yeah, I would agree. Couple things I would like to add are, obviously, my favorite character is Nightcrawler.
Yeah, you love him.
He's been my favorite X-Men for a long time. His Funko right up there.
Yeah.
Actually, next to my second favorite X-Men character. Those are my 2 favorite X-Men characters.
Nate's a big fan of both of them.
Big fan.
But yeah.
So Nightcrawler actually was done very well in this movie. He actually was not done this well until you get all the way up until Apocalypse and Dark Phoenix.
Which I always mistakenly call Dark Fate.
Yeah.
Because they're both big letdowns.
Yeah, exactly. So, for someone who's a big fan of Nightcrawler, he was actually really cool in this movie. Now, he wasn't the main character, but from what he was in, he was actually really well done.
Yeah.
So, especially the opening scene with him at the White House was literally one of my favorite scenes in all of superhero movies.
Well, it's crazy, too, how they upped their game between the first movie to iconic scenes like that are still brought up, I think. Maybe not in terms of overall cinematography, but this movie also did solidify the X-Men as its own separate thing that would not become the MCU or the DC movies. It had its own unique identity, and scenes like that, I think, really stand out because of that.
Yeah, exactly.
So overall, we really both highly recommend the movie. We hope you do check it out. We hope that the review was fun and informative and not ridiculously long. We'll try to work on being more succinct.
Yeah.
But let us know what you think in the comments down below. Be sure to leave a like if you enjoyed this. These are some of the least popular videos we do, but most fun.
Yeah, because we love these movies.
Yeah, we do.
So.
And we love talking about movies. It's like a passion. Yeah. So
we like movies.
Yeah. Thank you.
Very surprising.
Thank you, Steven Spielberg here. We like movies.
We like movies. Wow.
Let us know what you think in the comments down below. Be sure to leave a like if you enjoyed it. That actually helps out the channel a lot. The links are in the description as always, down to things that help support the channel like the Patreon, social medias like Twitter and Instagram, and also a special little thing, a subreddit where you can join to talk up with fellow enthusiasts of the channel, and a Discord where you can come and make some nice friends. We'll see you in the next one. Have a fantastic day, and as always, stay shui. And don't genetically modify and manipulate your son to commit mass genocide of an entire people group that you don't like.
Who are you to talk?